You thought Game of Thrones was brutal? The real world was worse. No dragons, no magic, just ambition, betrayal, and blood. Behind every throne was a knife. Behind every dynasty, a graveyard. These aren't fantasy tales. These are real stories, the most savage power struggles in history. England, 1135. King Henry I dies and leaves only one heir, his daughter, Empress Matilda. But medieval England wasn't ready for a queen. Instead, her cousin Stephen seizes the crown. Matilda doesn't sit quietly, she invades. For nearly 2 decades, England is torn apart by civil war, a period now known as the Anarchy. Matilda is captured, then escapes in the dead of night, disguised as a corpse. She regroups, fights again. Towns are burned. Nobles switch sides like seasons. They built castles, called adulterine castles, raised their own taxes, and caused dissent throughout the vassals of the lands they owned. The war only ends when her son, Henry, is promised the throne and becomes King Henry II. A Game of Thrones? No, a real-life War of Thrones. The House of Lancaster. The House of York. Both branches of the same royal bloodline, and both thirsty for England's crown. The result? A 30-year civil war drenched in betrayal, murder, and madness. The Plantagenet king, Edward III, passed away in 1377. The rightful heir to the throne, Edward the Black Prince, had died before his father, so his heir, Richard, took over the throne as Richard II at the age of 10. His mistrust of the nobility, predominantly those of his uncles, led to the beginning of the conflict. Kings rise and fall like pieces on a chessboard. Henry IV, Edward IV, Henry VI, all battle for control while their families plot from the shadows. And then, the darkest twist. 2 royal boys, the princes in the Tower, vanish, locked in the Tower of London. Never seen again. Richard III claims the crown, but his reign is short. At the Battle of Bosworth, he's cut down, and a new house rises, the Tudors. Game over, for now. Rome, June, 68 AD. Emperor Nero commits suicide. After his suicide, Rome is thrown into chaos. No clear heir, no rules. 4 emperors rise and fall in just 1 year. First, Galba, June, 68 AD. He began his reign by killing many of Nero's allies. He was soon killed by praetorians and soldiers from his own legion from Hispania. Next came Otho, January 69 AD. Upset that Galba chose another as heir to the empire, he pushed for the throne. In the end, he chose suicide to prevent more lives being lost in a war with Vitellius. Next, Vitellius, April 69 AD, took the empire with the help of his Legion of the Rhine, yet he could not escape Vespasian's push and was soon dragged through the streets of Rome and executed. Finally, Vespasian, December 69 AD. He was a general in Judea, and his troops march on Rome and take control for Vitellius. He ushers in a new era of Roman emperors, the Flavian dynasty, as upon his death in June 79 AD, his line leads Rome until 96 AD. The Senate was powerless, the people terrified. The lesson? In Rome, loyalty lasts only as long as the nearest sword. The Ming dynasty begins in 1368 with Hongwu Emperor and his defeat of the last of the Mongol-led Yuan dynasty leaders. It was an impressive dynasty that saw the building of the Great Wall of China and the Forbidden City. Nothing lasts forever. Turmoil starts in the form of droughts, famines, and inflation. The peasants begin to revolt. Who takes advantage of these occurrences? Not generals, not ministers, eunuchs. Eunuchs originally were castrated royal slaves with no education nor authority. However, in the Yongle Emperor's reign, 1402 to 1424, they began to receive more administrative power. By the reign of Wanli Emperor, 1563 to 1620, eunuchs had been granted rights over the civil bureaucracy and ability to collect provincial taxes. A bribe to the eunuchs was necessary to get any state information to the emperor. The eunuch Zheng He, who becomes an admiral and sails redesigned ocean-going ships called treasure ships on 7 voyages from 1405 to 1431. The eunuch Wei Zhongxian, because the ruler Tianqi Emperor, 1620 to 1627, was disinterested in ruling the empire, used his influence to change the military leaders to his generals and go after his rivals. The eunuch Wang Zhen used his usurped power from the Zhengtong Emperor, 1435 to 1449, to build his own personal temples and palaces. The eunuch Liu Jin, part of the 8 tigers of the Zhengde Emperor, 1506 to 1510, initiated reforms to increase taxes on the empire. Various eunuchs throughout different reigns ran the Eastern Depot, a secret police force the emperors used to spy on officials of any rank. They had their own tactical forces and prisons. In 1644, the capital is breached, calling an end to the final years of the Ming dynasty. The last emperor, Chongzhen, of 1611 to 1644, walks to a quiet hilltop and hangs himself from a tree. This begins the Qing dynasty, and the days of the influence of the eunuchs quickly ends. These palace servants turned puppet masters are once again just property. With the Ottomans ending the Byzantine Empire, with the conquest of Constantinople in 1453, Mehmed II solidified the strength of the Ottoman Empire. He also brought into law the right of fratricide, the act of killing male siblings to prevent any future uprisings. With the sultans having harems, there were often multiple half-brothers to contend for the throne. In the Ottoman Empire, brothers were rivals, threats, targets. Mehmed's son, Bayezid II, took the throne by defeating his brother Cem Sultan, who fled in exile and latter died as a pawn of Pope Innocent VIII. Selim II became Sultan thanks in part to his father, Suleiman the Great, killing his brothers, Mustafa and Bayezid, along with their male heirs. Murad III began his reign by having his 5 brothers strangled. Yet none was worse than Mehmed III, who had all 19 of his brothers killed. As time passed, the fratricides lessened and were replaced instead with a lifetime locked in a cafes or golden cage where they would stay until they died, or were needed as heir presumptive. By this time, many were mentally unstable. Life for sultanaires was simple: rule or die. No escape, no freedom. Only the throne or the grave. Game of Thrones didn't invent power struggles, it just reminded us how real and how brutal they've always been. These were not just battles for power, they were wars for survival, for legacy, and often for revenge. And the deeper you dig into history, the more you realize, sometimes the most ruthless battles are the ones written in ink and sealed in blood. If you want more stories like this, raw, real, and ruthless, hit subscribe and tell us in the comments which of these savage struggles shocked you the most.